try this. Okay, so we are up to Mishlei 15:6. All right, so this is a weird one. Okay, Bayis Sadik Chosen Rav Uvitvuas Rasha Ne'ekares. Yeah. Okay, so what's the how do you translate it?
The house of eight sided has much wealth.
Okay, yeah, good. So you gotta, I feel like you gotta add in a word. So has, I think, has let's just say great wealth. Okay, so chassan is not a bridegroom, right? Wealth or treasure. I don't get this, but apparently it's like synonymous with chayil or chayil. Okay, which is like that is more commonly used with wealth or treasure. Vitvuas Rasha Ne'ekares.
And the storehouse is the granaries.
Oh, Tavua. Yeah, a little bit broader than grain. Produce, yeah, right. Yeah. Yeah. And yeah, but I'm gonna go with but because I'm gonna assume that this is an opposite. Yeah.
But the produce of the Rasha.
Yeah.
Ne'ekares. It disturbs.
Yeah. I'd say is troubled, is disturbed. I would translate Ne'ekares as sullied or like corrupted.
That's what I thought.
Yeah. Like I think it's used with maim achurim, right? Like water that's like in a spring that's like all dirty or muddy.
Right. Tefilah like in Bekius.
Yeah, right, exactly. Yeah. Okay, so this is one, let's call this translation A, okay? Because there are, like I said, in the shiur blurb, this is a pasuk where there's like a fork in the road, different translation. Okay, so we'll see this. I guess, yeah, so I don't think you're gonna be able to get the first half from without help. Okay, so ציון says chosen is inyan chozek. Okay, so he says chosen is strength. Kmo v'chason hu ke'eloni. I'm not familiar with Amos. And then uvitvuas is miloshin bia. Okay, so if chosen means strength, okay, and tvua means bia, not bia, like vo, right? So how would you translate it?
The house of Sadeh is very strong.
Yeah, is very strong.
But when a Rasha enters it, it becomes weak.
Yeah, arrives. It becomes, or I guess it is, and then we'll put this in here. Yeah. All right. So those are the two approaches. And I'm sure you can mix and match if you want, but this is going to be, let's actually just call this Mitzudas ציון. Okay, and then you'll see Sadeh. Oh, sorry, and then Ne'ekares, I forgot. Miloshin Achira Ubilbul. Bilbul Beggins is messed up, right? Troubled or disturbed. Targum Sadeh says Bivesa Tzadik Chosen Rav Uvutuvuas Rasha Haklima. So actually, I'm going to go back to translation A and B. Okay, so Sadeh says, in the house of a tzaddik is, I think you have to say the treasure one because it's in the house of the tzaddik, as opposed to strengthen, right? So is great treasure. Uvitvuas harasha hachlima. But but in the produce of a Rasha is shame. Okay, so I'm gonna actually just say, yeah, I'm gonna just add this onto here. Shame. Yeah, all right, fine. So that's Sadeh. And then Targum says Bevesa de tzadike sagi chela. So sagi chela means a lot of wealth. So that's going with the first translation. Alal tahon derashie tis aker. And I think that means when the Rasha arrives. No, that's not true. That's not true. Alalta is Tefilah. So I think it's taking that stance. Okay, fine. Then we got Art Scroll says the house of the righteous one is greatly fortified, but with the arrival of the wicked one becomes sullied. So that's clearly going with Metzudas ציון. Rafa says the house of the righteous is a rich treasure. So he doesn't add any words. He says it is rich treasure, which is the most literal translation, but I'll add that here. But I think it's also like not so smooth. But by the revenues of the wicked, trouble comes. Okay, so that's creative enough. We'll keep this. Alter says great treasure is in the righteous man's house, but the yield of the wicked is blighted. So he uses, I don't know if tis akir is ever used for blight. Like blight is a disease on a crop. So, but it's not, I think we'll just keep it with our translations here. Okay, so I'm going to move these up, and then we will have.
Well, actually,
Yeah.
our school translates to Sadeh as Kra. So
No, Tefilah is definitely crop. I'm saying though Karis, I'm not accustomed. I mean, I'm not familiar with a case where it's used for blight. Yeah. Which is a very, very specific type of. Is it fungus? Is blight a fungus? Okay. Yeah. Okay. So what are the questions and problems here? Yeah.
The first half and the second half of the pasuk at the very least, according to the first, actually even both. Like one is referring to the Bayis, and
Yeah.
the other one's referring to just like the produce. I mean, is that similar? Is that like
okay? So we'll ask this as a broad question, which is what is the relationship between the two halves? Are they opposites? And then we'll say like if Bayis, if Tefilah means produce, then they don't exactly seem like opposites, right? House versus produce. Yeah, Moshe.
Chosen Rab and Karas, they seem like a qualitative and quantitative.
Okay, right. So likewise, if chosen means so that's actually an interesting thing, right? So if chosen means treasure,
that's a quantitative thing. It doesn't think it's a.
Yeah. Hold on just a second. I just had a thought. If chosen means treasure, so I mean, I guess the question is, if you take translation A, then is the wealth the opposite of the produce, or like correspond to the produce, or is it the house corresponding to the produce? Whereas, like, there's B seems to be telling translation B is like a story time translation, right? Where it's telling a tale, right? Sadiq's house is all nice and strong, and then Rasha comes and then it messes everything up, right? So, yeah. So say your question again.
Chosen Rav, I guess point Chosen Rav and Karas are not necessarily opposites.
Okay, yeah, right. Okay, so similarly, how are Chosen Rav and Tefilah Karas opposites? Yeah.
This is more a question on translation B, but if it is a very strong house, why would the Russia's arrival have any effect?
Yeah, all right. So how does the Russia's arrival mess up the house, especially if it is a strong house and I guess and what was I gonna say? And like I guess I don't want to say managed, as a tzaddik, right? Yeah. Okay, right. So that would be the chiddush, right? That's going to be chiddush is clearly related to that. Yeah.
Definitions.
Yeah, right. Okay, so we have to define what does bias mean in this context. Now, what are the I feel comfortable because bias usually has like standard meanings. What are the most standard meanings of bias? Yeah.
House.
So right. So physical house.
Base measures, I was gonna say.
Okay, that's a specific. I'm looking for more for translations.
The house.
Yeah, right. Household, right?
The legacy.
And legacy. Are there any other standard? You see the difference? What I'm saying is like, yeah, right, yeah.
Suck up.
I'm wondering if, yeah, let's leave it with these. Okay, or I'll just say or something else.
What do you think? I mean,
No, I think I was just trying to search on my mind to see if there's any more standard translations, but I think those are the yeah. Okay, and what are the other things that need to be defined here? So what? So if chosen means treasure, what does that mean? Okay, and how does Rav qualify it? Right. So like Moshe was saying, it's quantitative, which seems to be the case, right? But so is chosen like good stuff, and then Rav is a lot of it, is it in terms of wealth? And then if chosen means fortified, so then in what sense and against what, right? Fortified against, clearly, I mean, I guess I shouldn't say clearly. Is it fortified against the Rasha? And if so, then it's failing, or is it fortified against other stuff? Then, yeah.
Also, does it have chosen Rav or is it chosen Rav?
Okay, right. So that's only on the first translation, right? Because if it's a right. So and then also is the pasuk saying that it has chosin rav, or is chosin rav? Yeah. Yeah.
Sadeh. Rasha is
Right. So what are the definitions of tzaddik and Rasha? Sorry, Rasha in this context? And just to flesh out the question, because we haven't, this might be the first, is this the first tzaddik Rasha pasuk we've had this year? Oh, I'm learning it.
So.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, right. So I guess this is more of a universal point, but so in Mishlei, you have Mishlei jargon, right? And sometimes the term is being used in a technical jargony way, and sometimes it's just being used as like the good actor and the bad actor, So tzaddik could just be like the guy who makes the right decision, and Rush could be the bad guy or the fool. But I'll say, is this generic or technical? Okay, and then we have what if Tavua if Tavua means I actually like whatever translation said yield, okay, but produce or yield. I think yield is like a better literal translation, right? Like it's the crops that came to you, not the crops that you made. So if Tavua means produce or yield, is this literal, like i.e., crops, or is it, not figurative, but like, is it whatever? Is it a reference to any revenue or something else? Okay, and then if Tavua means arrival, how, from where, what is the Rasha actually doing besides showing up, right? Like it sounds like if he steps in the door, it's not like all the produce suddenly gets blighted, so what is the Rasha doing, yeah, so
Back to the translation, the first translation.
yeah,
So it's what Rasha Me'akares.
yeah.
Could it be saying that with the tour of the Rasha, the house gets Me'akares?
Uvitvuos Rasha, that could be Uvitvuos Rasha, right? Yeah, that could be. So, I think, right?
Yeah, because
Yeah.
that would to us.
Yeah. Okay. So let's do translation C. Translation C. The house of the tzaddik. So that would go.
Probably.
Yeah. So I guess it could be either, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Actually,
yeah. So let me just do the translation C for the second half. And with the
produce of the Rasha.
The produce of the Rasha, the house is Ne'akaris.
Right.
Yeah. Okay, that's good also. Yeah, David?
Question for the first translation.
Yeah.
Regarding the positive quality in the first half and the negative in the second half, where does the quality lie? Is that within like the produce themselves or things like that are actually good and actually bad? Or it's the utilization of the tzaddik and the utilization of the Rasha that makes it good or bad?
Okay. So I think I'm gonna have to plug that into no, I'll just make that a separate question, go with the lazy route. So what is it about the house and produce of the tzaddik and Rasha which makes it good and bad? Moshe, were you gonna say something?
Yeah, for translation C.
Yeah.
Is Bayis is female word?
Would it have to be? I don't think it would have.
It would be Nakar.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah. Right. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think you're right. All right. Good call. Yeah. Oh, I gotta tell you a side point. Okay. This is just I'm deep into Sforno on Gan Eden right now, like to the point where like I'm supposed to give a Sunday shiur on something else, but I might try to get this together in time. This is a little bit of a spoiler. This is like the best example. Like obviously, we who learn know how important it is to like not rely on translations, on like English translations, and like if you can get it in the Hebrew, then you should. But usually, I think the reason why we think that is because it's like you might not get it exact, but there's other reasons where you can have a perfectly correct English translation and still miss stuff. All right. So in Bereshis 2:15, Vayikach Hashem Elokim es ha'adam vayanichehu v'gan eden la'avda u'lashamra. Right. So you translate it. So let's see how Neiman Novetzky translates. So Hashem God took the man and placed him in the Garden of Eden to work and watch it. Seems fine, right? Right. So the Sforno says la'avda u'lashamra is feminine and gan is masculine. So it can't be to work the garden. So what is it talking about working? It's talking about, well, what's the feminine antecedent? Is vayipach be'apav nishmas chayim. Vahi adam nefesh chaya. He put him in the garden to work and protect the neshama. Okay. Now Ibn Ezra disagrees apparently and says that gan sometimes is feminine. Like I guess we say ganos. But that's not a riot. But I mean, whatever. So just like, I'm going to keep this in my pocket this is like the type of thing where if you're talking with like a Christian who wants to learn Bible, and like they find a good translation, you're like, nope, you're still not going to get it entirely because there's aspects of the language that are built into the structure that like you just don't see. Yeah.
So on translation B, Mitzudat ציון, it says what's the clause here, because it can't be like entrance unless it's the entrance of Russia.
Oh, that's also true. That's interesting. Yeah, you can't say you could say the arrival, but then bitvua is weird, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And with the arrival, the arrival is
okay. So let's do this. Let's bring back the translation C, but then raise a question on it, which is how does this work grammatically? I know it's also actually I'll put this as a question on B and C. Q on B and C is how does this work grammatically? Karis karis is feminine, but Bayis is masculine. Yeah. Okay. Good question. I mean, right now this is a good argument for A, right? A avoids all these things. Yeah. Do we miss any other definition questions? We didn't say net karis in what sense, right? What does net karis mean?
I just thought of another bias.
Okay. In this context, according to either translation. Yeah.
That's not actually relevant. But
another
someone else for bias.
Yeah.
Like house I see, like the batim labadim, they're like holes. A place where you insert the holes.
Yeah. So that I want is that's interesting. Right. Yeah. I don't think it means that here, but but you're right. Right. Yeah.
About how we know that bias is zakar, and I was like, oh, batim labadim.
Okay. That's good. Yeah.
More questions?
Yeah.
What's the scenario?
Yeah. Right. No. I think we have to ask what is the scenario here? What is the scenario? What is the subject? Who's the intended audience? Now, this is one where, like, who do you say, I guess, is are the likely possibilities for who's the audience? Right. One is for the tzaddik, right? The tzaddik or the people in the house, right? Yeah, right. So, like, it's a very interesting thing. Actually, I'm going to explicitly ask this next question because I think it'd be unusual if this were a pasuk. So if this is for the tzaddik, okay, is this pointing out a mistake he might make? Now, you would think that that's like common mishlei, but I was thinking about it. I can't think offhand of any pasuk that is davka there to point out a mistake that a tzaddik specifically is going to make in the pshat. Like, obviously, you can apply a lot of pesukim to that, but like if it's telling him, you might think that your house is immune to the Rasha, but this is a like a blind spot, then that'd be interesting.
That's where I got my translation from.
Okay, nice, yeah.
But it can't speak to the tzaddik though, right? I mean, meaning just the question is that like just within the pshat or in general?
Well, the question of who's the intended audience is in the pshat. But then I'm saying that if this is talking to the tzaddik and saying, telling him that when a Rasha comes, his house is going to be corrupted. So then it seems to be pointing out like a pitfall, and
the tzaddik?
That the tzaddik could make. That's why he needs the pasuk. Right. And I'm just saying, like, of all the pesukim about tzaddikim that we've seen, first of all, most of them are not for the tzaddik. Most of them are describing the tzaddik, and it's really for us, for people who are developing into the tzaddik. But this would be pointing out like a mistake he might make,
Right.
Yeah.
And yeah.
Yeah,
'Cause
you-
normally it's not like that.
Yeah, I guess I can't think of one. It's possible there has been one, but yeah,
That would only be according to translation B, right?
that would be according to translation B, correct? Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Translation A is more neutral. That could be, yeah.
Right.
Okay, I think those are the main questions. Let's get ideas. Yeah. Yes.
So maybe you said that like I'm gonna define the house
Yeah.
as the people in the house.
Okay.
but
Household.
actually I want to start off with the second half
Sure.
first, because I think to me it's like a little easier. And so maybe you could say that like the produce of the Rasha maybe means that like it's possible to say that not everyone in the household is like a Rasha. Not everyone has a Rasha, and maybe the question I like.
Wait, hold on a second. You said you're going to translation B?
No,
Or you're
A.
Okay, A. Sorry. Yeah.
Yeah, I want to go A because like and I like the translation of shame.
Yeah.
Because because like it's meaning it's shameful in how the Rasha may have gotten his produce,
Mhm.
and the people in the house may recognize that.
Mhm.
If they're not like as wicked as the house, the Bayis or whatever, and that may and that should be a wake-up call to the individual in the house.
Okay, hold on. Just to make sure that we're on the same page here. So you're saying that because I was reading translation A as the house of the tzaddik has great wealth, and that's over here, and then the produce of the Rasha is over here. But you're reading it that the produce is in the house.
I'm reading that. Yeah,
Okay.
I think so.
I just wanna
yeah,
make sure
I
you-
think so,
yeah.
yeah. Because like I just want because if we're already talking about the house in the first half of the pasuk, right?
Yeah.
Like and we're discussing how like the tzaddik's household has great wealth.
Yeah.
Like what does that mean? Maybe,
Right.
maybe you could say that like that like the truth of the matter is that he doesn't necessarily have to be like monetarily wealthy.
Mhm.
Like the wealth could also stem from and how he got the produce. In a very
Okay.
like like an just way, and like that in itself is like a wealth within.
Yeah, but I don't know if you would describe. You could say that obtaining wealth righteously will get you great wealth, but I don't. To me, it's a stretch to say that the definition of great wealth is that it came about through righteousness, because Rav definitely means superior quantitatively or qualitatively.
Yeah. So what I'm trying to say is, where is that coming from?
Okay.
I mean, I don't think it necessarily has to just mean like money. Like
Yeah.
coins. I think that if you have money and if you do it through a justice way, that in itself will expound on the wealth itself.
Okay.
Like that will give it like it's like quality.
Mhm.
Because like like there's always going to be a limit to the wealth. Like you can't really quantify the amount of wealth, because like what does that really mean in terms of like a tzaddik lifestyle,
Yeah.
right? So
Okay.
like but to me like that's a good contrast to the second half of the puzzle, because like even though the Rasha has wealth, there's still always going to be lacking in how he got the wealth, which may not be as justified, just righteous as like how the first guy got it.
Yeah, I mean, the advantage of your interpretation is that there's a lot of Mishlei pesukim like that, where it's talking about how because the tzaddik got his wealth in righteous ways, then it's superior and the Rasha's is bad. I'm not convinced that that's what this pasuk is talking about yet, because maybe it's because I'm not understanding. So what is the pasuk saying about the tzaddiks? In other words, factually, the pasuk is describing a tzaddik who obtains his wealth righteously. Great. But it's telling us it's chosen rav. Likewise, the Rasha got his produce through some sort of dishonest means, and it's telling us it's ne'akaris. So what is the chiddush on each half? And then the other thing also is something about it bothers me, that like, if we're just talking about how you get your wealth, why Bayis and Tefilah? Like those are very specific kinds of.
So I'm trying to explain
Okay,
that.
yeah.
Like I'm trying to explain that the Bayis means the people in the house.
The
right?
Bayis means
Meaning
people in the
it's
house. Okay.
possible the Baal
Yeah.
is a lost cause.
Yeah. Okay.
So for the people in the house, if they're able to see two different frameworks of how of how
Wait, sorry, sorry, that confused me factually also. So the tzaddik is not the Baal Bayis?
the tzaddik is, but it's not.
So what do you mean he's a
not
lost
the-
cause?
No, he's not the lost cause. The Rasha is a lost cause.
Oh, the Rasha's lost cause. Okay.
Yeah, he's a lost cause.
Okay.
Because the Rasha he's also Bayis, and it's his house.
Yeah.
Too, but like we can't do anything about him. He's a Rasha. You
Okay.
know,
Wait,
like
who's basically?
Is the house of the Tzaddik or Russia?
Well,
it's both. I'm learning that the two
Tzaddik
houses of
live in the
pasuk is
same
both
house.
talking about the Bayis.
Right. So it's talking about the
Right.
Bayis and the Tefilah in each house.
Yeah, the Bayis and Tefilah in each
Yeah,
house.
right.
But the Tefilah in the Rasha's household is going to be sullied. There's going to be shame within the Tefilah. Right now the question is, okay, fine. So what? Who?
Yeah.
Practically, what is it going to do?
Yeah.
So the only people it can really affect is the individuals in the house,
Yeah.
like the children or the wife
Right,
or
right.
whatever it is.
Yeah.
Because they're really going to feel, like negatively associated with the house. If not, then they're also Rishon.
Right.
Right. So maybe there's some hope to them if they view the Tzaddik's household, or
Mhm.
if they view something contrasting and
Right.
they could see what is really wealth. Yeah, it is money, but it's also in how you got the money and everything that comes with it.
Okay, so now it took me a while because I was very confused by every step of the facts. Okay, so let me see if I get this. So the second half, I agree. The second half is easier to start with, which is that all right. So I'll start with the scenario. So the scenario is a household with a Bala Bayis who is either a tzaddik or a Rasha. Okay. And that household has a lot of wealth, but in the tzaddik's household, I'm just going to say it in English, in the tzaddik's household, the wealth is obtained honestly, but in the Rasha's, it is obtained dishonestly. So far, so good?
Yeah.
Okay. The second half of the pasuk is not talking to the Rasha, because he's a lost cause, but it's informing the members of the household that the wealth they have is going to be tainted by its dishonest origins. Whereas, and this part I'm not clear on, the wealth in the tzaddik's household is what? I mean, obviously it's not tainted, but like it's
that's a good question.
okay. Yeah, is blank. Okay, and then what decision-making wise is it telling the members of the household, like, get out, like?
Kind of, because like if you're associated with the Rasha, a lot of negative things.
Yeah, right. I guess the difficulty though is like, let's say you're an offspring of a father who's like, making crystal meth and selling it,
Yeah, look,
or yeah.
I think you and I had this argument before with like, Naomi, like I'm
Yeah.
under the impression that like you should get out.
Right.
You gotta leave.
Yeah.
Like, there's that.
Right, so
like you can't surround.
All right, so I'm going to ask, what is the practical, like, what is practical decision-making advice? Yeah, yeah.
For this approach, is he saying that the Mekars is going on the bias?
Yeah.
Isn't that a grammatical issue?
I mean, clearly, Matsudas
Is learning.
is learning that. And Sadeh going also, right?
Uh-huh.
Well, Sadeh is haklima. He's detaching it from there's shame in the house from that. Yeah, so I think it does fit. So
Okay.
yeah, so it's a question on them, not on Ariel. Yeah, yeah. Ezra?
A different approach?
Hold on a second. And you just let's just think about this for 1 second, because this is close to what I wanted to say, but I feel like my approach avoids a lot of the problems. I don't know.
Is
Yeah,
that what's close to that?
yeah,
I think some of the decision making advice would also come earlier and say like, this is an example of what can happen if you make money dishonestly, where like,
yeah,
you end up having these problems for your children or whatever.
yeah. I think so. Also, right. Yeah,
So make your money honestly, and like if it's gonna be like dishonest money or like no money, like best off not having it.
right. Yeah. I think that's going to be the thrust of this type of approach. Yeah. I'll hold off on my approach until we explore some more. Any other insights on this or things similar to this? All right, so we'll table this for now. Yeah, Ezra.
So I want to say that the pasuk is talking to a person who looks at the tzaddik and the Rasha.
Yeah,
And sees a Rasha is very successful with a lot of produce.
yeah,
And tzaddik as not wealthy, not very well off, things like that. And I think it's saying that if you look at, starting with the Rasha, So he sees. Well, I think one thing he sees is that the Rasha has a lot of tefuah as opposed to the tzaddik who doesn't.
Yeah.
And he says he sees him as tons of tefuah, and it's pointing out that his tefuah is nekaris.
Mhm.
Because first of all, either he's going to relate to it poorly, he's
Yeah.
not really going to help him, and possibly he even got it in like wrong ways. But it's telling you that that's really a bad situation that he's in terms of a lot of produce, even though he has a lot.
Right.
As opposed to the base Sadeh, even though he doesn't have tefuah, he still has chos and rab, and he has great wealth. Which I'm not sure whether that's referring to either to the fact that he's living the proper way of life or just or
Yeah.
something like that, but it's trying to change a person's framework.
Yeah.
Viewing the tzaddik.
Okay. All right. I like that approach. Okay. So this is going to be with the translation A also, right? Yeah. Right. So, so the pasuk is describing a scenario in which the Rasha has a lot of visible wealth and the tzaddik doesn't. And the audience of the pasuk is someone who is, who might view the Rasha situation as superior. The chiddush is that even though the Rasha has a lot of wealth, it's tainted. Okay, and this is like I'm gonna just add this. I know you didn't say this, but this is like blighted produce. Okay, because I don't know what types of blight are visible and which ones are not. But if I told you that, like, let's say like you're a farmer and you're walking by and you see this other farmer that has tons of produce, and then I told you that all of that produce is unusable, then you'd be like, the quantity doesn't matter, So yeah, so that's tainted. But the tzaddik, even though he doesn't have this visible amount of wealth, his household is still wealthier. And then now the question is going to be, in what sense is the Rasha's produce ne'ekaris, and in what sense is the tzaddik's the tzaddik's household chos and rav? Yeah, but I think that's a good approach though.
I think I can answer that.
Yeah.
That's a
Sure.
good answer.
I mean,
you gave possibilities, but yeah, right. Yeah. No, but go ahead.
I was gonna say, I don't know, like if you to take like an example of today, like the difference between an individual who earns his money like in a proper way versus someone who like gains his money through selling cocaine, then like if he uses the money, like he's gonna have to be more cautious on how he uses it. He can't even use it enjoyably because like if he's lavish with how he uses it, then people will look into him.
Yeah.
And
Did you just watch American Gangster?
Money
No.
laundering.
Was it?
He hasn't learned money laundering.
Yeah, right.
No,
Yeah.
Whatever. I mean, the point is like whatever. Like he can't use it with. The point is like, let's assume even if he did launder money,
Yeah.
right? Like or whatever. Like at the end of the day, he himself will have this, thought in his mind that like he can always get caught.
Yeah, I'll tell you. I'm gonna tell you why. I don't disagree with the concept. Like you have, for example, pesukim. Like I think the first one is in second here, in 10, 2 or 10:3. I think it's 10:2. Loyo ilo otros Rasha utzdaka tatzim l'maves. So the treasuries of the Rasha will not benefit him, but tzedakah saves from death. Right. So there I would be more open to an idea about how this money might not help him. But here the emphasis is on the money is corrupted or troubled,
Yeah.
So again, I'm not disagreeing with the idea, but what I would be looking for here is what is the quality of, in other words, the pasuk is not emphasizing that he might lose it or he might not get benefit from it or he might get caught. It's emphasizing a quality in the money itself. So that's the type of explanation I would
That's
favor.
what I'm trying to explain. I'm trying to say that the chapsa of the money can't be used because there's always
Okay.
negatively
Okay. All right.
money.
Yeah. All right.
I should use chapsa, I'm sorry.
Okay. So this is Ariel's answer, which is the Rasha's money is tainted in the sense that he can't use it freely because of its origin. So a good example of this is I was talking with someone, I was talking with Johnny about art theft, art heist. It's like art is among the most valuable types of items in the world, but when people steal famous works of art, you can't just like sell it, so it creates this problem where you are like, in terms of what you own, very wealthy, but if the money is like essentially locked up, and it's very hard to launder art, so like I'm going to use this as an example, stolen art,
Good example.
yeah. All right, that's good. And then, so what is it saying about the so now the question is, it's describing the tzaddik's wealth as chosen rav, and according to the way you're saying the scenario, which I agree with, he has less wealth. So I guess what is the chiddush there more precisely? Yeah.
All right, so I was actually thinking very similarly to
Yeah.
Ezra. The way I was framing the answers to those questions was in terms of what the goals are of the tzaddik and the Rasha.
Yeah.
Framing those definitions a little bit loosely.
Yeah.
I guess less of technical terms and more of generally good and generally
Yeah.
bad. Of the Rasha, his goals are more of building a proper legacy, a proper household that have values that are focused on the right things. Whereas the Rasha, all he really cares about is being wealthy or like ephemeral things.
Yeah.
All he wants is a lot of tefulah.
Yeah.
So the thing is, if you're focusing on
okay.
building a legacy or building a household or whatever, being a productive member of society, that is going to naturally be strong because you have good values that are going in the right direction. But if your values are just having wealth for the sake of wealth, that's inherently going to be problematic. Not necessarily that it's going to come from a bad place or that he's going to steal to get it, but just that if it's only for its own sake, then it's just inherently problematic and it's not going to last long.
Okay, so I'm going to put this as a separate approach because I think this like has the potential to be its own idea, even if it does overlap with other stuff. So the tzaddik's goal is to produce a Bayis ne'eman b'Yisrael. Okay, a Bayis, right? Which is I guess I'm gonna go ahead and say it, even though this is not shot, a system, right, that functions and lasts and is good, right? Whereas the Rasha's goal, the Rasha's goal is just tevuah, right? And I'm gonna use the word revenue, revenue, and his sights are not on building something that actually lasts. And that lack of foresight is going to, I guess, predispose him to making lots of short-sighted decisions. Yeah. Okay. I think this is a good sensitivity to the words in the pasuk. Yeah. I'm gonna just share my. Oh yeah. You want?
Well, just on my approach, like I think another possible answer to the
Yeah.
questions. I was sort of saying this a little before, but I think you could say you could even be a case where Rasha has a lot of wealth.
Yeah.
And he got it honestly, and he just is a good businessman or something. And
Yeah.
He made a lot of money. And the tzaddik is somebody who just doesn't have a lot of money.
Yeah.
But even so, it's saying that the Rasha, he's not going to relate to it properly, and it's not going to be beneficial to him at all.
Right.
But the tzaddik, even though he doesn't have a lot of money, he still has a lot of wealth relative to how
Okay.
he relates to it and uses it.
Yeah. All right. Good. So this is even if the Rasha obtained his wealth honestly, the fact that he is a Rasha and makes decisions like a Rasha, will result in his wealth, not being beneficial and being harmful. Whereas the tzaddik might not have a lot of wealth, but he'll use it properly, and in that sense, it is valuable treasure. Yeah. All right. I think that's good. Also. All right. Let me just share my intuition. I haven't worked out the whole thing, so I want to go with. We haven't really talked about. Oh no, and mine's not on translation B. It's on translation A also. So I think this is advice for the tzaddik about a pitfall that he might have. Okay. So one question is, why is it an obvious question? Why does the tzaddik care about having a lot of wealth?
For the sake
For the good of the system.
greater-
Yeah, for the good of the system, right? Is he could do more good with wealth in the system, right? So the thing is that let's take a chacham. Okay, chacham is going to be better at making money than a fool, but he's not really looking out for the system. Okay, so that is going to narrow his sights in a more localized and selfish way. Okay, which is going to expose itself to other pitfalls. Tzaddik is going to go for a big operation and try to bring in as much wealth as possible for the sake of the system. Okay, however, the bigger the operation is, the more the less you're able to really scrutinize all the particulars. And what this is telling him is, oh, sorry, maybe this is the translation B.
Yeah,
this is translation B. Yeah. Actually, it might fit into both. So I'm just gonna say the idea, and then we'll try to see which one fits in better. So the thing is that if any of his wealth is associated with a Rasha, that could taint the entire thing. So let's say, for example, you have, just a classic example, let's say you have a really, really good charity organization and you raise a ton of money, but it's discovered that someone who contributed to the, or who's like involved in the organization has some sort of scandal. Okay. And it might not even be a scandal that's related to the money. It might just be that they are, doing something bad in some other way. That could taint the entire enterprise, So it is pointing out a blind spot for the tzaddik that, and that's why I'm trying to say the mere presence of the Rasha, like the arrival of the Rasha, in that enterprise, I guess Bayis I'm translating as like enterprise, and using that in a very broad way, that itself can create problems. And now the question is, why would the tzaddik be prone to making a mistake? So I gave one possibility right now, which is just like this, the nature of the operation, whether it's because like he has to delegate to others and they might not be as aware of things. That could be one cause, like he just doesn't notice the Rasha. Or I'm wondering if the tzaddik could rationalize and say that, like, okay, what's his name did this? Anyone know which of the good kings that his downfall was making an alliance with an evil king? Was it Yehoshaphat or was it Yoshiyahu?
I thought it was Yoshiyahu.
Yoshiyahu. Who did he ally with? Yeah, right. Yeah, so I think so. I'm not saying that that's exactly this, but it's that kind of mistake where like he knows that this guy's a Rasha and he knows that he's been involved with him, but he reasons and says, well, the net benefit is going to be better, but in reality, like it's going to bring in these bad influences. And I guess I'm saying Nekaris is emphasizing the perception-based thing, is that people will associate you and your wealth with the Rasha, and that's going to ruin whatever you're trying to do, which is really good. Yeah.
It's not a question or idea, but
Yeah.
like my question is, I'm just modeling like the case with Avram and Hagar and Ishmael for a second.
Yeah.
Like in that specific case, like Sarah recognized that Ishmael wouldn't be good, in the household, right? So is it possible like that a tzaddik, that a Rasha may come from within the company as well?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
therefore it may also be like
That could be also, yeah.
So your approach seems to work with B and C, and the difference would be, at least in the perception, if it's like related to the Rasha doing anything bad, like even separate from the enterprise, or specifically does something bad in the enterprise.
Right. Yeah.
That
Yeah.
would be
Yeah. That's good. I'm not even going to write mine down yet because I don't want to lock myself into that. Let's do this for since we're almost at our end time. Let's just read the Metzudas David, which I haven't read yet, and oops, this is the wrong parak, and then just see what he says. So he's going to be going with translation A, obviously, right? With translation B, I mean, yeah. 6. Chosen. Oh, that's Metzudas. Yeah. Chosen Rav Mechuzak hu me'od v'lo yicharev. So it's strong in the sense that it won't be destroyed. Okay, and then uvitvuas Bayis bo harasha. At a time when the Rasha arrives in it, nishchas habayis hahu. Then the Bayis will be destroyed. Yay! Okay, yeah. So it does not give us much to work with.
beautiful. Though.
Yeah, but it is interesting how he says Bayis bo harasha. I mean, he's trying to explain why it uses this very like literal term of when the Rasha arrives, it'll be destroyed. But again, it does not, nishchas. It's funny because nishchas I would say is corrupted, but then yecharev makes it sound like destroyed, So is yecharev the literal one, or is nishchas the literal one, yecharev is figurative, What is he saying?
Maybe.
Yeah.
Well, maybe he's saying it's not going to literally be destroyed, but because it has kind of like this aura of lightness around him. So
Yeah.
to just qualitatively worsen the product, but not actually physically.
Yeah, I mean that's yeah, it's hard to say it's gonna be destroyed. Yeah, Ezra.
Maybe in line with what you were saying, it's not when the Russia is hanging around there a lot and messing things up, but it's just by the fact that he came.
Yeah.
to destroy it.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I'm open to that idea. I'm just it's just such extreme terms he's
I
using.
don't know if it's going too far, but to be back in the Yicharav and
Yeah.
the Mishkas, that like the Sadeh sets up his Bayis or whatever enterprise he's running in the way that it's not gonna like totally get destroyed,
Yeah,
but the Rasha can like slowly like corrupt it and like wear it down.
interesting.
But he's not gonna actually totally destroy it.
Okay, I mean,
It's not the entrance there.
yeah, I feel like that is like the opposite of what Mitsudas is trying to do with like the ace.
Oh.
Yeah, I just had another thought, which is that, and again, I don't know if this is a mistake that's specific to the tzaddik, but tzaddikim are good at making things that last. But the thing is that that it is a lot easier to destroy stuff than to build stuff, and you can make a system that is like, let's take founding fathers, right? So they created a system that was built to last, but if someone is an extreme Rasha, like the nature of rishus is that it can, like, in other words, the system of checks and balances and all that other stuff is set up that in normal functioning, it's going to last and thrive. But sometimes the more equipped the system is to thrive under normal conditions, the more vulnerable it'll be to like a really, really real active rishus. I'll use a weird example is that that when architects build buildings, they're built to last against earthquakes and against like, structural wear and tear. They're not built to last against jets being rammed into them, like, so we can look at that and say this never should have happened. And it's true, but you can't, in other words, a real Rasha can always find some way to destroy the thing through some extreme means. Now, I don't know what it'd be telling you about that, but that's I think that is a reality. Yeah.
It says like it'll be destroyed like when the Russia comes.
Yeah.
Could you read that to say that if it's a thing that attracts Russia's, it's like inherently flawed and so it'll be destroyed or something, or is that not the
right? So that would be a true idea, but the question is if this is the house that the tzaddik is building or owns or whatever it is. So then I guess what about the tzaddik's house is going to attract the Rasha? Yeah.
I think maybe because
Well, then we got to stop. I realize we're so.
yeah.
Yeah.
So very quickly.
You gotta go.
The
you gotta go.
Bayis tzaddik doesn't necessarily mean that the tzaddik is there. Meaning like
That's true, right? Right.
meaning,
It could
it's
be
a
after.
system,
Yeah, that's true.
And like,
right.
and like, let's say the leader of the household like passed away or whatever.
Yeah, right.
So now it's the system is there, but no one like there may not be a tzaddik running the system.
Yeah, right. Like Beis David, right?
Yeah.
Beis David.
And once a Russia is there, who's equivalent to like the power of the Russia, the opposite side. Now, once he arrives within that system, they can undermine.
Yeah. All right. That's good. That's good. All right, we got possibilities. All right. Nice.
Yeah.
I'm gonna write both of those down.